Welcome back to my channel, where today I'll be transforming this wig into this wig. So if you've watched any of my videos before, you might be aware that I'm a big fan of Pokemon, and some of my favourite Pokemon are the evolutions. I've done a Sylveon cosplay, so I decided to do an Umbreon cosplay. This video we're just doing the wig, because my sewing machine is broken and I do not want to try and make a cosplay without a sewing machine, but a cosplay will come eventually, I promise. As you can see, this wig has so much hair, it is just uncontrollable, so I made a plan to make it a lot shorter and a lot more manageable, which is basically just a wolf cut over the top of a jellyfish cut, and then the long section is just going to be plaited to make the tail. So the first thing I did was separate out the fringe section, and then I immediately regretted all my life decisions in actually doing this because it looked so bad. I wanted it to be really thick because I thought it would make a really nice rounded shape, but I started out with way too much and it was very scary because I thought it was going to look like this forever. What I should have done is I should have started out nice and thin and teased the shit out of it and then add more layers if I felt like I needed more volume, but I didn't do that. I just cut this giant thick fringe that wasn't even going in the right direction. I do promise it gets better. You saw a little clip of it in the beginning. It does get better, but at this point I was really regretting actually cutting this wig because this wig was expensive. I've had it for a few years, but when I bought it I think it was around £60, which is a lot of money. You can obviously spend a lot more on wigs, but for me, £60 on a wig is a very expensive wig. So if I had ruined it, I would have been so upset. I don't know what I would have done if it looked really bad in the end. It doesn't look perfect in the end, but it doesn't look this shit. The next thing I did was go and buy hair straighteners. I got these from Boots, they were 20 quid. I honestly just picked the cheapest option which looked like it would work, which sounds a bit odd, but that was my thought process. I didn't look up any reviews or anything like that. But anyways, I used these straighteners to slowly calm the fringe and train it to lay against my forehead. I didn't want to melt the plastic, so I did it very slowly, just warmed up the fibres and then held it against my forehead, which you can see me doing in the video. And it did work quite well. I was worried it was going to keep sticking out forever, but this really did help shape it. I then went in and cut a very blunt fringe, always testing how it looked pointed. I decided I want to do a very neat fringe, so that if I decided to wash out all the hairspray and wear it in a different character or a different style, it could be done and I wouldn't have to go back in and cut the wig again. Admittedly, I did get very frustrated with this at the end. I really do not like the feeling of hair on my face, especially plastic hair, so I was getting a little bit overwhelmed and frustrated, so I did the end off camera a little bit later, but I feel like it came out pretty good, which is surprising considering how bad it looked the day before. With the fringe all evened out, I attempted to point it without any hairspray. I've seen people style wigs without hairspray before, so it definitely is possible. I just couldn't work it out, and it's honestly embarrassing how long I tried to do this method. I sat there for about 20 minutes just trying to push it together as if that was ever going to work. I think what people do is they crimp it, which changes the texture and makes it able to catch onto each other, kind of like Velcro, but I didn't do that, so it didn't work. Instead, I tied it with an elastic band at the point, sprayed a lot of hairspray into it. This was honestly kind of a waste of time at this point because it gets completely ruined in the rest of the styling, but it was good to have a visual so I knew the whole wig was going to look good together. Moving on to the main section of the wig, I started out by separating the tail, which is the large section, from underneath, so I wouldn't accidentally cut it while styling the top. Then I gave the top a good brush. It wasn't as tangled as I thought it would be, honestly. I feel like the hair underneath makes it look so much worse than it actually is, but it only took a few minutes to brush this section out. I then tied up the top section on my head. I did it on my head so that I knew the hair was being pulled from the center. I thought this would make the layers more even, but it honestly doesn't really matter as I go back into this section so many times that the first cut doesn't really make much of a difference. Also, just to note, I was tying up the hair so I could use it later for the ears, so you will be seeing this hair later again in the video. With a big bulk of the hair now cut off, I went on to separating out the top section. Unlike the under section, I wanted to make this section more natural, so I'm not following the wefts for this bit. Also, my shirt is really short. Probably should have changed it, but I really didn't think, so I'm sorry you will be seeing a lot of my binder for a while, and I apologize for that, but there's nothing I can really do about it now. Anyway, what I did was take the middle section and decided how long I wanted it to be. I wanted it to be a dramatic difference between the tail and the hair, but I also didn't want to have it too short, as I have more short wigs than long wigs, and this was originally a long wig, so it feels like a waste to cut it too short. So I did it around armpit height. I feel like I left it a little bit long. I might cut it up to the collarbone at some point. I just feel like the styling would look cuter if it was a little bit shorter. The way I cut this section was just laying it flat against my chest and then cutting it straight across. This means it's a little bit shorter in the back than the front, which is what I wanted, but I don't think I realized that it wouldn't be that dramatic dramatic. You can't even tell it's shorter at the back at the end. So maybe at some point I'll have to get a wig head, put it on the wig head and actually make sure that it is shorter at the back, but for now I think it looks okay. Plus I don't turn around that much anyway. Then I brought down the top sections and rough cut them, just wanting to get rid of the bulk of the length and make the next step a little bit easier. Then I tied those sections back up on top of my head, but this time into two tails, one in the center of my head and one at the back of my head, and I cut them straight across. This is how I've seen people cut their wolf cuts on TikTok, and it worked quite well. On camera the hair doesn't have as much depth. I think it's mainly because I'm really pale, so the light balance is difficult for my phone to work out, and I really like how it looks. I feel like I could wear this for multiple different cosplays and multiple different makeup looks. Would definitely be a good wig for drag. It's also going to be very easy to manage now, which I'm really excited about. I was so fed up with the wig before, so it's so nice to actually have a black wig I can use. The next thing I did was spend a few hours brushing out and straightening the underside. This was so tangled, and obviously because I hadn't cut it, it was also very long, so it was going to take a very long time regardless. I feel like I must have been only brushing the top of this wig to make it look okay on camera, and then just leaving the underside to slowly turn into an absolute mess. But even though it took forever, it was quite relaxing to do. I had a YouTube video on, so I was just chilling. It's weird because I thought this would be the worst part, and it was time-wise, but relaxing-wise, it was really good. I did then plait it, but apparently I didn't hit record, and I don't want to refilm it because I'm really bad at plaiting hair. It takes me forever, so I'm sorry you missed that clip. Back onto the fringe again for I promise this the final time. I started by tying it in place while it was on my head, just so I knew it was in the center, and then I put it on my lamp, which I use as a wig stand, and sprayed the fuck out of it. I most definitely overdid it. I did 4 layers of hairspray on this, and it makes it quite hard to keep up. You'll see at the end the point has separated where it hit my nose while I was putting it on, so I think a better idea would be to wash out this hairspray and then sew the ends together, as this would make it easier to restyle. I could just re-sew the ends, and it would look much better because it wouldn't be really hard and shiny. Onto the ears, I decided to make them detachable with magnets, because my older sibling did this recently for one of their cosplays and it looked really good. And then I went in with this bag from Urban Outfitters. I used this because I had it laying around. I don't use it and it was the right colour, and I just sketched out a rough shape of the ears and then sewed it together into a cone shape. Originally I did 3 of these shapes into one ear, but you'll see in a bit it looked really bulky, and I didn't have enough hair to stuff them properly, so they were quite floppy as well. And yes, I did stuff them with hair. I wanted to recycle the hair rather than getting rid of it because it is plastic, which is a pollutant, and I don't want it going to landfill. And it also meant that the ears were very light, which is really important when using magnets because the magnets can't hold that much weight, even if they are really strong magnets like the ones I'm using. Like I said before, I started out with 3 panels, it didn't work, so I went down to 2 panels, and this works so much better. They don't look like rugby balls anymore, which is great. For the outside of the ears, I went in with more hair. Using those little bunchies I cut off the wig earlier, I just glued them on. The glue is very messy. I feel like I should have used a different glue that doesn't dry in this way, but I just used what I already had on hand. And it took a lot longer than I thought it would. I also filmed it really badly, so I'm really sorry that it's completely out of frame the whole time. I just wasn't paying enough attention, and I'm really sorry about that. Once all the hair was stuck down, I hairsprayed it just to make it nice and pointy, and then I put even more glue on the end and sewed in the magnet. I think I had too many layers of hair on the outside of the magnets because they weren't working as well as I thought they would. So if you're going to do something similar, I would recommend having the magnet completely shown on the bottom, so don't cover it up at all. And they look a little bit strange when they're just sitting on the side, but they do look good on the wig, I promise. To do the yellow sections, I went in with more products that I had laying around, so I used a sheet of yellow felt, glittery tulle, and glitter glue, all various shades of yellow and gold, and I layered them all together to make a really nice, shiny, bright fabric. It came out even better than I was expecting. I was worried all the glitter was just going to go everywhere because this glittery fabric just spreads glitter all over my house, but the glitter glue really helped to hold all the glitter together, and I would highly recommend this. It's also really flexible. I was kind of thinking it was going to make it kind of tough, but no, it's still really flexible. It just worked really well. I was so surprised about this. And obviously once it was dry, I just cut little strips out of it and the circle for the forehead. And with this circle, I just stuck it on with hairspray so I can easily remove it if I want to do a different character with this wig. And with the ears, I sewed them on in a way where I can take them off quite easily, again making this wig more versatile. Oh, and I also added one to the tail. I almost forgot about that. I then went back to the wig and sewed the second set of magnets onto the wig cap itself. I went one weft down so there's not too much layer in between them. Originally I was going to put them on the inside of the wig, but like I said before, I covered up the other magnet a little bit too much, so I didn't want to have too much space between them. And this worked quite well. I just covered the magnet in a circle of that black fabric I used before, so it blends in quite easily, and I could actually sew it into place instead of gluing it. This is the first try on the ears. I liked them, but I felt like they were way too big. So I cut them down a little bit, making them a little bit shorter, and I feel like they look so much cuter now. For the makeup, I wanted to go in with something very simple. This may not be the cosplay's final look, but I didn't want to showcase the wig without putting on some sort of cosplay. So I just put on this yellow shirt that I already own, and then my only black clothing. I don't think you can even see the black shorts in the video, but they are there. But like I said before, I wanted to do a very simple makeup look, so I just did yellow, kind of smoky around the eye, up onto the forehead and down onto the cheeks. I wanted to keep it very abstract, so that the harsh black would have more contrast. For the black, I was originally going to fill in the whole eye, but once I did the outline of it, I felt like it looked really nice just like that. So I left it as an outline to look more like graphic eyeliner, and I feel like it was a good idea. I then added a little nose, and then I did my lips in black as well. And with that all done, it's time to show you the final result. And that is it for this video. If you did enjoy it, please give it a like down below, comment what else you'd like me to do, and subscribe as I post a new video every single week, and I'd love to see you again. But until then, bye!